So a minister gone, and I must say Chris Minns being a bit generous, saying it's about blurred lines here. What strikes me about this is you're always a minister, you're part of a government. When the first story broke, the team gather around her, the Premier says, is there anything else out there? And she must have said no. Well,
lied to the Premier. That you're always gone after that. A trip to the Hunter Valley, she says she went to a winery, the Hunter Valley, with her husband, with the driver, and was working. Okay, I guess we're all sort of on call in these sort of jobs, politicians especially, but that is taking the word that Julia said. Look, Rose Jackson, very lucky to escape, I would say. Rose Jackson and Joe Haylen, two of the biggest backers, as Julia Bradley points out, of Chris Minns as he made his way to the leadership. So that's kind of interesting. The other interesting aspect is that Joe Haylen is very much an Albanista. She's from that club of people from the inner west of Sydney, from the left, of which Albanese is the leader. You can put Penny Sharp in that category as well. So I think Joe Haylen, part of her hubris would have arisen from thinking she had some protection from the fact that A, she was a backer of Minns, and B, she was an ally of Albanese. But how much hubris do you need to think it's appropriate to get a taxpayer-funded driver to drive all the way from the south of Sydney up to Lake Macquarie, a good couple of hours, take you while you go on the piss, excuse my language, for 3 hours, leave the driver sitting outside, and then get driven all the way home? I mean, it's just an utter disgrace.
I thought, and Chris Minns 2 times in the space of 24 hours has had to go out and defend her. Yesterday at the press conference, getting whacked with every question, making it clear this is a damage to his own premiership. This morning with Ben Fordham on 2GB, and no defence of it. But there he is ambushed with this allegation of the second trip. And he says he has to say, yes, I'll go back and ask her. So embarrassing for your minister to do that to you, I think, that you couldn't be more upfront with the boss to say, yeah, look,
he did say,
he
said in the statement as well, Tom, just to pick you up, because you said it was a bit, he went a bit soft. He said it's clearly an error of judgment. When he was talking about the blurred lines, he's talking about the rules. That's why he's changed the rules now. At the top of the statement, it says it was clearly an error of judgment. He's got rid of it within 48 hours. I think he's handled it well.
I agree.
He's a minister he's a premier, I should say, who has been doing extremely well in the first couple of years in office. And I think this is an effective response to what is a debacle and a costly one for Joe Haylen. She's worked a whole career to get to that point. She would be devastated today. And you look at it, and as Andrew, I think, is right to use the word hubris, she's paying back the $700 or there it was to use the Kia Carnival to get to the Hunter Valley. I just looked on Uber what it is from Caves Beach to the Hunter, $350 for a van. So if you just fork out and maybe split it among your friends, then she's still got her job. Well, she doesn't this afternoon.
Well, this woman says she's in the left faction of the Labor Party, and yet she's acting like she's a member of the aristocracy. I mean, the hypocrisy is, the whole thing is breathtaking. I don't know what part of your brain you're using. Maybe you're not using a part of your brain when you decide this is okay, this sort of conduct. And look, I think Rose Jackson requires a bit of an explanation and to come out and address this herself as well. I think you told me earlier the suggestion was it was a surprise. It was a surprise 40th birthday party, so she didn't know all this was going on. But there have to be some questions for her out of this. Just to Kieran's point, he has handled it well, because this is the way I think you show colleagues you'll stick with them, but only for a little time. And it was always up to the journos after this to get the second revelation, and she was always hanging in the breeze, for lack of a better term. Sorry, it's not a great term, but you back them the first time, but if there's any other offence, they go. That's kind of the way these things roll out. Thankfully for Minns, it happened rather quickly. This would have run for days and days.
as I said, clearly
otherwise.
the first thing she would have been asked is other incidents.
She said no, though, when she was
any
asked
other
on the
lunch,
weekend,
kids being dropped off to sport anyway.
Just lied.